As a joke, they sent a single mom to sit beside a single dad, until they learned who he really was. The first thing everyone noticed was the empty chair. It sat near the front of the school auditorium, second row from the aisle, the kind of seat teachers usually saved for parents who talked too much or caused trouble. The chair looked harmless, but the whispers around it weren't. People kept glancing at it, then at the man already sitting beside it, and then away again, smirking like they were in on a private joke. No one expected the chair to change anything. No one expected the man beside it to either. When Emily Carter walked into the auditorium late, juggling her purse, a folded permission slip, and the hand of her 7-year-old daughter Lily, she was already tired. The day had started before sunrise, like most of her days did. Lily had spilled cereal, the bus had been late, and Emily had argued with her boss over unpaid overtime before racing across town to make it to the mandatory parent meeting at school. She didn't notice the looks at first. She was too busy apologizing quietly to the teacher near the door and trying not to trip over the steps. "There's an open seat right there," the teacher whispered, pointing toward the empty chair. Emily nodded, grateful, and guided Lily toward it. She didn't know that seat wasn't meant for her. She didn't know it had been picked as a joke. As Emily slid into the chair, she finally noticed the man beside her. He sat straight-backed, hands folded loosely in his lap, wearing a simple dark sweater and jeans that looked well-worn but clean. He wasn't looking at her. He was looking straight ahead, calm and unreadable. A small boy sat next to him on the other side, swinging his legs and humming under his breath. Emily offered a polite smile. "Hi," she whispered. The man turned, surprised for just a second, then smiled back. It wasn't flashy. It was the kind of smile that felt practiced, gentle. "Hello," he said quietly. "Looks like we're neighbors for the evening." Emily exhaled, relaxing just a bit. "I guess so." Around them, a few parents exchanged glances. Someone stifled a laugh. Someone else leaned over and whispered, "This should be interesting." Emily didn't hear that part. If she had, she might have stood up and moved. The man beside her was named Daniel Reed, though no one in that room used his name out loud. Not yet. At that school, labels mattered more than names. Emily Carter was easy to label. Everyone knew her. Single mom. Works too much. Always looks tired. Sweet kid, though. Pity mixed with judgment followed her everywhere, especially since Lily's father had left when Lily was 2 and never looked back. Daniel Reed had a label too, though most of it was built on assumptions. Single dad. Quiet. Keeps to himself. Rumors said he was unemployed. Others said he'd been in trouble before. No one could say exactly what kind of trouble, but the uncertainty made it more entertaining. And that was why the chair existed. Earlier that afternoon, when the seating chart was being discussed, one of the parent volunteers had laughed and said, "Why don't we put the 2 singles together? Give them something in common." It had sounded harmless, funny, even. "Yeah," another parent had added. "They can bond over their misery." They laughed. The teacher, tired and distracted, hadn't argued. She just left the seat open. So now Emily sat beside Daniel, unaware that she was part of a joke that had already started spreading through the room. The principal stepped onto the stage and tapped the microphone. The hum of conversation died down. As the meeting began, Emily focused on the presentation. Budget cuts, upcoming events, safety drills. She took notes because that was the kind of parent she was. She took everything seriously because no one else was going to do it for her. Halfway through, Lily leaned over and whispered, "Mom, can I draw?" Emily nodded and handed her a pen. Daniel glanced down at Lily's paper and smiled. "That's a good unicorn," he whispered. Lily beamed. "It's a dragon unicorn." "Even better," Daniel said. Emily felt something soften in her chest. Small kindnesses did that to her. She turned to him again. "Your son?" she asked quietly, nodding toward the boy beside him. "Yes, Noah," Daniel replied. "He's 8. He's very polite," Emily said. Daniel chuckled softly. "He has his moments." They shared a brief smile. It felt normal, comfortably normal. Behind them, someone whispered, "This is actually kind of cute." Someone else replied, "Don't get used to it." Emily didn't hear those words either, but she felt the air shift. She sensed the weight of eyes on her, the subtle tightening of the room. Years of being judged had sharpened her instincts. She straightened in her seat. As the meeting dragged on, parents were invited to stand and introduce themselves if they had volunteered for upcoming events. One by one, people stood, smiling proudly as they mentioned fundraisers, bake sales, committees. When Daniel stood, the room went quiet. Not the polite kind of quiet. The curious kind. The kind that waits for a mistake. "My name is Daniel Reed," he said calmly. "I'm Noah's father." A few parents nodded stiffly. Someone coughed. "I don't usually speak up," Daniel continued, "but I wanted to volunteer for the school safety committee." There was a pause. Someone in the back laughed softly. The principal blinked. "The safety committee?" "Yes," Daniel said, "if that's okay." Whispers rippled through the room. "Is he serious? Does he even have experience?" Emily felt her stomach twist. She didn't know why, but she felt defensive. She hated that tone. She'd heard it too many times directed at her. The principal hesitated, then said, "Well, we usually ask for backgrounds in." "I have one," Daniel said gently. The room leaned forward. "In security," he added. "And risk assessment." The principal nodded slowly. "All right, we'll discuss it." Daniel sat back down. Noah grinned up at him like he was proud. Emily leaned closer. "That was brave," she whispered. Daniel shrugged. "Someone has to care." She smiled, then hesitated. "If you don't mind me asking, what do you do?" He looked at her for a moment, considering. "I consult, mostly." "That sounds vague," Emily said with a small laugh. He smiled back. "It is." The meeting ended shortly after. Parents stood, gathering their things, conversations buzzing. Emily reached for Lily's hand. "It was nice meeting you," she said to Daniel. "Maybe we'll see each other again." "I'd like that," he replied sincerely. As she turned to leave, she caught snippets of conversation around her. "Did you see her sit next to him?" "I know, right? Of all the seats. Poor thing doesn't know." Emily frowned but kept walking. Over the next few weeks, Emily did see Daniel again. At pickup, at school events, always polite, always reserved, always there for Noah. They started talking more, about homework, about balancing work and kids, about exhaustion. Emily found herself laughing more than she had in a long time. Daniel listened, really listened. He never tried to fix her problems. He just acknowledged them. One afternoon, as they stood by the gate, Emily sighed. "Sometimes it feels like the world expects single parents to fail." Daniel nodded. "Sometimes it hopes we will." She looked at him sharply. "You've felt that too." "Yes," he said simply. Around them, the jokes continued. People noticed them. Together. They whispered. They speculated. Are they dating? Probably desperate. Can you imagine? Emily tried to ignore it, but it hurt. She'd spent years building thick skin, but this felt personal. One day, at a school fundraiser, everything changed. The gym was packed. Kids ran around with balloons. Parents clustered in groups. Emily was helping at the snack table when she heard raised voices near the entrance. "No, you can't just walk in here like that. I'm telling you, this is a public event." Emily turned to look. A man stood near the doors, agitated, shouting. He was tall, angry, and clearly not supposed to be there. Parents backed away. Kids started crying. The principal looked panicked. Before anyone could react, Daniel moved. He stepped calmly toward the man, positioning himself between him and the crowd. "Sir," Daniel said evenly, "let's step outside and talk." The man sneered. "Who are you supposed to be?" "Someone who wants to keep everyone safe," Daniel replied. There was something in his voice. Not loud, not aggressive, certain. The man hesitated. Daniel continued speaking, low and controlled, his body language open but firm. Within seconds, the man backed down, muttering, and followed Daniel outside. The room was silent. Minutes later, security arrived. Daniel came back in, straightened his sweater, and went to find Noah. Parents stared at him like they were seeing him for the first time. Someone whispered, "Who is he?" Later that night, Emily found Daniel near the bleachers. "That was incredible," she said. "You were amazing." Daniel sighed. "I wish it hadn't been necessary." "What do you do?" Emily asked again, more insistently this time. He met her eyes. "I used to work in federal security. High level. I left after my wife died." Needed to be a dad. Emily's breath caught. I didn't want people to treat Noah differently, he added quietly. So I kept it simple. Around them, parents approached, suddenly friendly, suddenly respectful. The jokes stopped. The whispers changed. The chair was forgotten. Emily looked at Daniel, seeing him clearly for the first time. People really misjudged you, she said. He smiled sadly. They always do. She smiled back. They misjudged both of us. Months later, Emily and Daniel sat together again at another meeting. This time, no one laughed. No one whispered. They weren't sitting together as a joke anymore. They were sitting together because they chose to. And the moral was simple, though it took everyone far too long to learn it. Never reduce people to labels. Never assume you know someone's worth based on their situation. The seats we joke about, the people we underestimate, may be the very ones who change everything, if we're humble enough to see them.